here introducing Paul D. Dickinson. Way back in Minneapolis, like 87, 88, 89, I was trying to get a poetry reading scene going on. There wasn't much happening, and Paul was one of the few guys I'd really wanted to read with because he was really good, and he's still really good. It was so wonderful for me to read his book, Junker Dreams, and say, oh yeah, I remember that, that's Paul. He used to, well, first time I ever read with him, he was still a student at St. Olaf's in Northfield, Minnesota, which is famous for being where they got Jesse James and they imprisoned him and the younger boys. There's a movie about it. Also, there's Long Riders, which is a great movie. Later on, Paul had his own cool art gallery where they had bands in the basement, Speedboat Gallery in St. Paul. They early on, Green Day played in their basement. I didn't get to see that, but so anyways, he's been a mover and a shaker in the Twin Cities. He used to introduce himself as Paul from St. Paul. Been doing that for a long time, and I've been a fan for a long time. Oh, and I don't have my introduction. Let me grab the introduction. There's some official words we need to say. Here we go. Okay, official words. Paul D. Dickinson is a poet and musician, born in 1966 in St. Paul, Minnesota. His writing has appeared in Conduit, City Pages, and the St. Paul Pioneer Press. Dickinson has been in 3 films, The Last City in the East, Tired Moonlight, which did have a showing here in a theater, and we like a drama actor theater. It was awesome. And The Lake Street Detective. Lake Street is the cool drag in Minneapolis, and it goes from Minneapolis to St. Paul. And when it goes over the Mississippi River, you're in St. Paul if you're going east. Lake Street Detective. He is currently the host of the Riot Act Reading Series. Paul D. Dickinson.
Thank you for that official and unofficial introduction. Hey, bear with me, I have to need a piece of paper or my whole life's gonna fall apart right now. So, yeah, here we go. So, this is my latest book. It's for sale at this wonderful, beautiful bookstore over there. I'll be happy to sign it. Thank you for Malvern Books. Thank you, Joe, and it's great to be in the great state of Texas. So, what I'd like to do is, before I'm going to read a chapter of my book, but before that I'd like to warm up with some poetry, you know, or as I like to call it, the hard stuff. We're going to shoot some of the hard stuff right now. There's some car-related poems. And when Joe was in Minneapolis, he wrote a great book called Harmon Place, which you should find, which was this cool, it really captured the degenerate nature of Minneapolis. And I have to say, it really hasn't gotten better. Matter of what your perspective is. Anyway, so, this poem is called Screwdriver. The car hits a telephone pole. Now I'm awake. My hands follow my brain follows my hands. As I open the glove box, I take out a screwdriver. I pop out the license plates and the VIN numbers, and I throw them in a storm sewer. At this point, it is impossible to apologize for my life. Wet snow is everywhere. The trucks growl diesel hearts on close yet unseen freeways. I grab up every pen, penny, and unmailed letter I can find in the car. And I look over my shoulder as I walk towards work, thinking of all the lies I need to tell. Thank you. This one's called Bullshit and Bluster. Bullshit and bluster, it is the glue that holds a dude together. When you're on top of the world, it just oozes out of you. And when you hit rock bottom, it's all you got left. Now the world is full of psychology books and pricks with PhDs. But don't all the problems in this world come down to a person being lonely? Now you can try to be a tough guy, but that won't last, because one day you will break down and weep uncontrollably in the Taco Bell drive-thru. Bullshit and bluster, it is the glue that holds the two together. Thank you. Then we'll get to the lighter stuff. All right, this poem's called T-Bone. Your white face perfectly framed in the glass of a Japanese car. And you know, I could if I would. I would give you all the tea in China. I would give you all the badass pickup trucks in Wisconsin. In fact, I would let you ram that piece of shit into my car if I knew you were on your way to my house. Thank you. All right, this is the book. So, the reason I wrote this book, I don't know, there's really no reason really, but every chapter is a different car in this book. So it's kind of what happened in every car. So the very first chapter of this book is called, let's see if I can look it up here. Some reference material. Okay, 1997 Chevy Astro van. Okay, 1997 Chevy Astro van. Having a crappy slacker job in between girlfriends and manic episodes, I took the chance and jumped at the chance to go on a southern tour with my friend's rock band. Now, they were very clever. They rented a 1997 sparkly red Astro van to camouflage the bunch of dirt bags that were in the van, to hide the fact that they were a band going on tour, so they would, you know, look like a family going to Disneyland. So we went down to New Orleans. Now, if you think you're not going to drink in New Orleans, you will snap like a twig in a hurricane. So I was very serious about my duties. I moved equipment, I got the band drinks, I hung out. Well, we got to New Orleans, and everybody went out to the bar. I was a little tired, so we were staying in some punker's house. It was a rather ramshackle thing. They were very nice. I didn't care for the vegan food. Anyways, I'm in my little sleeping bag, and there's this terrible rain coming down. Like, I'm from Minnesota, been through a lot of blizzards, tornadoes. I've never seen rain like this anywhere in my life. So this rain, I hope this place doesn't blow over. I'm just gonna lie here in my sleeping bag. Well, the band we were staying with, the woman Annie comes in, and she says, "You've got to help me. My friend's in the corner. We have to go rescue her. She needs us. You got to come with me." And of course, who can resist a damsel in distress? Especially if she looks like Betty Grable with tattoos. So we get in their van. Now, this is the opposite. This is what we call in transportation a cop magnet. It's a black van full of stickers, you know, rusty. And thank God she's willing to drive, because it was really raining. Oh, I forgot to mention, Mardi Gras is going on. So we're in this van. The wipers work, the lights work. We're going down. Still a bunch of people, even though it's raining. So we're driving along, and then she puts in this very soothing Stormtroopers of Death tape. And so we're going along with that. All of a sudden, boom, a blur, and boom. Wow, we ran someone over. So now running over people is not good. I mean, only if you're escaping armed attackers, it makes sense. So we stop. It's raining like hell, and we get out of the van. Well, like Lazarus up from the dead, the sorority girl just gets up. She seemed more upset about spilling her drink than anything. Kind of out of it, and maybe the drunkenness kind of saved her from the impact. And so I'm thinking, I'm just standing there thanking my Irish Italian God, Catholic God, thank you for having me not be involved in a homicide. Then a squad car pulls up. Then I'm thinking, I need to make a shift. How do I make a shift? Anyways, so then we're standing there, and Annie, the girl from the band, I tried some kind of Zen BS on her. I'm like, look, we need to have this positive energy. We can't get arrested. So, but that didn't last because as soon as the cop came out, she's like, I ran her over, I'm so sorry. So that didn't last. But then the cop shines his flashlight. He says, what's going on here? Well, she goes on and on again. I ran her over. The cop says, looks like she's walking to me. Why don't you move it along? Dear God, do I love the Southland. So, we, standing there in shock, get back in the van, and yes, we moved it along, said many prayers of thanks. And so we got to the quarter. Now, she found her friend. I don't really know why I was there. I was pretty useless at that point. She found her friend. Crisis was averted. And I found the rest of the band. Now, my friend Tommy from the band, we had decided that our pickup line was going to be, we're from upriver, way upriver. Now, it seemed to work a lot better for him than for me. So we met this delightful creature who called herself Anastasia Plus. Anastasia Plus. And, well, so things improved after we met Anastasia Plus. I was brought to stay in her beautiful home in the Garden District. And we stayed there for the rest of Mardi Gras, but one night, she's like, let's go to some after parties. Now, after party doesn't really make sense in New Orleans since the bars don't seem to close, but what we meant, real parties that were real late at night, right? So but these were in the backwater or something, across Lake Pontchartrain. So we went to these parties, and I was the random party goer. Accept me. You don't know me, I don't know you, I'm the random party goer in New Orleans. And, and I went to these parties, and it was great music, and I just danced. I danced away so much repressed Minnesota bullshit in America's city, state, New Orleans. And I think I drank myself sober. I was ready to take the LSAT. I don't know if you've done that, but there was just having a great time. But then we got back in the sparkly 1997 Red Astro Band. And so I forgot to mention, Anastasia Plus had a wispy friend with her. I never quite got her name. I just considered her less than hostile. And so we're in the van and we're lost. We're hopelessly lost. And so I said, Anastasia Plus, do you know how we can get back to the Garden District? In her lovely drawl said, I know nothing about no backwater. And then they proceeded to pass out. So, Tommy and I did what we called Japanese high command. I slapped him, he slapped me. I slapped him, he slapped me. I slapped him. It helps you make executive decisions in a time of crisis. We got out that map. And you know how, I don't know if you remember from Boy Scouts, about how you use a map is you turn your brain off. And you just use the map. So we got that map out. And with terror and caution, we found our way back to central New Orleans. And I myself should have been passed out. But I was the co-pilot. And I was alive, and I was awake, and I was ready for anything. Thank you very much. Buick Electra 225 Deuce. Remember those big old cars? And also throughout the book we have photos, and we kind of had them superimposed with this kind of religious background. So here is the grand approach of the Deuce. So you can see that. So actually, I wrote this book. One of the reasons I wrote this book is my dear friend Mike. I passed away, and this is about one of the many stories about him. Mike had a black Buick Electra 225. The damn thing was massive. It was perhaps the largest car I've ever been in, a real boat. I really missed those huge cars. They were such a joy to drive. You felt invincible. You just wanted to cruise around, smoke cigarettes, call girls from payphones, and buy strangers drinks at the bar. Under the hood, the Deuce had a 445 rocket with a 4-barrel carburetor. We took it for granted. It just felt natural to have all that power. It was our right, it was our privilege of growing up in America to be able to step on the gas and fly through the night like a missile. With that crazed engine, a young man could have that special fantasy, the one where you outrun the state patrol and fly across the North Dakota state line into freedom. Yet, truth be told, we were not invincible in those glorious lumps of steel. Oh no, there were the small people, those who lacked imagination and the ability to dream. They just couldn't leave a man and his machine at peace. And Mike wasn't much about peace anyways. He was about chaos. Sometimes getting arrested is much like getting into an argument with a woman. One minute you are just driving down the road, the next minute everything goes wrong. Now, I can't tell you exactly what happened to Mike regarding his encounter with the St. Paul police. I can tell you that when he blasted out of the Batcave parking lot in the Deuce early that morning, he was sporting a spiked mohawk hairstyle and wearing a leather jacket with no shirt. But this I do know, I'm always the guy people call from jail. I suppose I should take this as a compliment, but it does come with challenges. What Mike had said to the cop at the Tabasco gas station on Selby and Milton must have been a stirring bit of oratory. It may have been regarding Mike's insurance, tabs, driver's license, but I'm sure to Mike it all boiled down to some grand repression of his freedom. Now, there was no way that I had the financial means to make the bail required, so I went to the bar where Mike worked. My thinking was, how were they going to deal with the oncoming weekend rush without their cook? They knew me at the bar because twice a week I would mop the floors for cash and a free meal and a pitcher of beer. I'm not saying they liked me, but they knew me. The bar was still cool inside, even though it must have been 80 degrees outside. It was sometime in the afternoon, but the place was full of daytime drinkers who looked at me with glazed eyes as the sunlight of the open door interrupted their tune-like ritual. Most bars have a creature known as the daytime barkeep. This specimen is typically old, male, cranky Caucasian, and curt. He's not friendly, but he seems to be beloved by about 3 people in the world, usually the ones drinking at the bar. And that suits him just fine. I strolled up to the bar. He gave me that "what the hell do you want" look before I even opened my mouth. So I skipped the cursory greeting and said, "Mike is in jail. I need bail money to get him out." Then I told him the amount. The barkeep proceeded to unfurl an impressive string of obscenities that could have only been honed and perfected by a longtime member of his profession. He didn't ask why Mike was in jail. After his expletive rant, he became quiet and just stared at me. I didn't know what to do, so I just stared back. And everybody in the bar was just staring at both of us. Then, with great ceremony, he punched the no-sell button and opened that ancient cash register. This whole time, he just stared at me with an acute sense of power that he could make or break my little punk friends and me. But his actions were so controlled and automatic, I could tell this wasn't the first time the bar had rescued one of her own. And that bartender, a true jerk by any measure, nevertheless lived by a code that could be understood by those who drove a 1972 Buick Electra. This code, almost genetic at this point, told him that you don't leave a member of your crew in jail. Mr. Cranky Pants then pulled up the plastic cash drawer and handed me a wad of $100 bills. All he said was, Tell Mike he better not be late.